Hello everyone, I'm Havoc and this is Factorio. And some things have changed, so let's take a look at the map. You'll probably notice that it is very large and there's obviously something going around here. And that would be because I did start to make another episode in which I was clearing out the biters and defending the base and going around here. But I'll be real honest with you, I felt like it was probably going to end up being very boring to watch. I mean, you can only watch me place several thousand turrets by hand without bots, without losing your mind. I didn't know if that was going to happen, so we didn't make an episode out of it. But I did get it done because it's a necessity. I did have to get our defenses going because I did start that episode. We were working on getting ammunition and things going, and biters just kept becoming more and more of a problem. So it was necessary to get it done. I just said let's get it done. Like I said, it didn't make for the best content for an episode, so it's gone. It's out of here. But we'll do a little recap. So I did a few other things. I had to expand our power just a little bit. We weren't getting enough water when combined with the concrete and everything else that was running off of the water, and I added in some more steam engines right up here. Yeah, it just wasn't enough water, so I tacked in a few more of the offshore pumps to alleviate that problem, is probably the best way to put that. And I did also throw in a handful of solar panels. We should be good on power now, yeah, because nothing's moving. And nothing is moving because while I was doing all of that, I completed every single research that does not require yellows or purples. So everything that was just the reds, greens, blues, and or military grays, those are all completed while I was running around, spending my time taking care of getting our wall set up. Now you might also notice a few other changes here. If you look at our red circuits build, I did go ahead and expand it out. So we have 3 times the production we had before. I did double the production of our engines right over here. And look at this. The biters are attacking. There are a few areas where it's kind of awkward, like corners and stuff. So I did put in redundancies just to try and help. I mean, there's a lot of turrets here. This is a just straight wall of turrets and a couple of chokehold points like right here and right here. The long stretches of wall are primarily, like I talked about in the last episode, there's a turret and then 2 spaces that we could put turrets in if we needed to, but it's not really necessary for everywhere. Close to the ends of spots, you'll notice that the biters will come along here and come up the coastline and attack. So these chokehold points like there, a lot of times corners, I try and add a few more turrets in, but like right here, here, anywhere where there's going to be that chokehold. Here, for some reason, and I'm guessing it's because the biters just come around here and then just hit this area because I have a radar here, but for some reason the biters seem to attack this section of wall right here. And like I said, I'm fairly certain it's because the radar's there and they are trying to get rid of the radar, but I had to double up or just slap fill this with turrets here, and then there's just a few up there. It's the same thing down here, very tight right in the beginnings and corners. How I did this is just there's some chests that offload the ammunition on the line, and you don't want to try and feed say like the entire wall with one belt that goes all the way around. That would be excessively wasteful. And if you're getting attacked in multiple points, you could run into an issue where your belt is not able to feed ammunition fast enough. So I have it cut into sections. You can see right here is another feed line beginning. So this wall section, this little L, is fed from here. This little L is fed here. Same thing. There's a dedicated spot that feeds ammunition onto the line for each of these little sections. Here, this length is one section, and then down here, this is one section. And none of these are super big on their own. I tried to maximize the usage of our natural bodies of water to prevent the biters to, send them to specific spots, chokeholds where I could defend. And that's what I did. The gray is just concrete pathways, because running all the way out here, it doesn't seem like much when I zoom out, but it's a pretty good distance. And so to get there on foot, it was much better for me to put this pathway down so I could get around. There is redundancy in the power running to the different sections. So there are multiple big power pole sections heading out north, south, east, west, and touching each of the different sections in case something out of the wall were to happen and one power pole gets destroyed. That's not going to kill the power going. And that's important because these inserters need power in order to put ammo into the gun turrets. The gun turrets will work without power, but they won't work without ammo. So, let's see what else. We expanded the green circuit build, and we expanded the blue science up here, our chemical science, doubled it up just so that it is at the correct ratio that everything else is. And because of that, I had to add in an additional chemical plant down here. And now that's a double line of sulfur here. And like I talked about before, I already increased the output of reds, and I increased the outputs of the engines right down here, red circuits and engine units, which gives us plenty more than enough production to have that running wide open. So with the catch-up out of the way there, let's think about what we need to be doing today. So I have a few options. I need to work on either purple science, which is production science, or utility science. Now, I'm going to level with you. Building that wall by hand, it was painful. Painful. And it took several hours to do what you see out there running back and forth, and I had to fight and clear biters along the way. So I think I'm ready for robots. And we're honestly not that far from getting robots. I say that. I could very easily make robots right now, but I have to get flying robot frames. Flying robot frames is right here. And you'll see this takes batteries, which I'm not making yet, and electric engines. Electric engines are the catch for us, right? So the electric engine requires a lubricant. And I'm not making lubricant yet, and I don't have a way to make it until I convert my oil processing over to advanced oil processing and get heavy oil, because heavy oil is the ingredient used to make lubricant. It's a 1-to-1 craft. It takes 1 second to make 10 into 10 lubricant, 10 heavy oil into 10 lubricant. And that's something we're going to need to get going. The grains and engines are already taken care of. And then, let's see, what was the other thing? We're going to need some processing units, some of the blue circuits, in order to make our power armor, which, oh, that's not the right button, which I did research and have ready to go. So that is going to take 40. That's a good bit. We're going to want to get a production line going for that. But we're going to start from the beginning. I'm just hovering all these so they'll go away. You can see, like I said, I had research just wide open, knocking out so many different things. We could look at nuclear power because our power needs are quite excessive at this point. And I could just mine coal and build a big plant and let the pollution just grow. Or I could work on some nuclear power. On that topic real fast, the reactor is a bit expensive. It's not crazy, but the real expense comes in the heat pipes and the heat exchangers. There's so much copper in those things, and for that matter, steam turbines. You're going to burn through so much copper, so I may not even worry about that in launching a rocket. I may just go the dirty coal burning way and expand our steam output. What I do know is I do not have enough room for solar to power anything crazy, so I'm not even going to worry about that. Let's run down here and actually, okay, so I do have quite a few chemical plants, lots of pipes. Power poles, we should probably grab a little bit of belts. Let's be intelligent and grab some things at the mall before I get down there and need something. I don't want to clutter my inventory too much though, so we're just going to selectively grab a few things. And that should probably be enough. I've got some tanks. I might end up crafting a few more extra tanks. Who knows? Oh, I did also go ahead and add in the rails, and I think I'm going to leave it like that. I was considering expanding it, but honestly, I don't know that I'm going to need that many. I'm not making a mega base here. I'm just trying to get the rocket launched, and really, I'm just enjoying this. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I'm taking it kind of slow, not trying to launch a rocket in any kind of speedrunner fashion. Obviously, I have got the achievement for launching a rocket in under 8 hours, but let me tell you something. I'm no speedrunner. That was a monumental effort for me to make it. I think I did it in 6 hours or so. And I was sweating. That was work. It was not just, oh, this is easy to do for me. Because I do overthink things often, and I try and build exceptionally large all the time, but efficient. So I tend to overthink things, and that does not make for a very fast run. Let's see what happens. You still have petroleum, and you were backed up on petroleum. I'm probably also going to need to expand our plastic when things get rolling. Let's go ahead and change the recipe and see what happens. Yeah, okay, so like I was hoping, it does not change the input for oil, where the oil goes. It simply adds water to the other side, which is good. I was kind of sweating the fact that it would mess up. I would have to redo the pipes with fluids in them. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's not too hard to fix. An offshore pump would be on this tab right here. We're just going to add a totally new one right down from that. And that fills our line with water. Now we will change all of the recipes. And now we have to deal with this extra piping so that we can separate out. No, don't do that. Do not want mixing fluids or inappropriate pipes. The fluids won't actually mix. I mean, if you were to do that, you see, cannot connect systems with different fluids. It's just annoying when you get the wrong fluid in a pipe. You can hear each of them flowing just for a moment when you do that. That's very interesting. And we are going to underground over to here, somewhere out of the way, like so. I just need to get all of these connected. I feel like it's always nighttime when I'm trying to record. Of course, I am recording long play sessions, so it's going to be several nights in one episode. All right. And I think we're going to want a buffer. Question is, how do I want to do this? I don't want backflow for sure, so we're going to drop a pump in right here. And what I mean by that is I don't want light oil in the pipes where it comes out of the refinery, because this will stop the refinery from working. Right now they're stopped because I'm backed up on petroleum gas, and we'll fix that momentarily. We're actually going to change where this is at a little bit. And this needs power. I can't be sneaky, can I? No, no. It's not gonna reach. I can just drop a big electric ball right there. That works. Sure, why not? These are not gonna fill up, like I said, because we're backed up on petroleum. But I want to get the production of lubricant going. And what I want to happen, and I'm going to have to use some logic here. I do have combinators and wire, so we can use some logic. I want it to always produce lubricant 24/7 until our lubricant is backed up, which will then cause a backup of heavy oil. Once the heavy oil gets to a certain point, then it will begin to crack that heavy oil into light oil. And I believe light oil is the best thing to make solid fuel out of? Or is it petroleum? I think that's actually the same, right? Because, oh, wait a minute here. 30 light oil becomes 20 petroleum gas. 10 light oil makes 1 solid fuel. So 20 petroleum gas makes 1 solid fuel. Which means it takes twice as much petroleum gas to make the solid fuel as it does light oil, but you do not get twice as much petroleum gas from cracking it. You actually get less. It takes 30 light oil into petroleum. So that's correct. That's telling me that the best thing to do with the light oil is to produce solid fuel. And then, if your solid fuel backs up, you turn around and crack it down into petroleum gas. And the petroleum gas we can do some tricky stuff with, but I'm getting very, very far ahead of myself here. Essentially what I need to do is bring out the heavy oil. And like I said before, let's actually give ourselves a little bit of space by coming down to here. We do not need heavy oil for anything. We are not going to take heavy oil. That's a horrible ratio to make solid fuel out of. So we are going to make all of our heavy oil into lubricant. And I do want to pressurize the system again, so we're going to leave 2 spaces, drop down a pump, and power this one thing. From here, all that I need is to figure out how much heavy oil I'm getting. Right, so each one of these makes 25 heavy oil in 5 seconds, or 5 heavy oil a second. I have 7 of them. That's 35 heavy oil a second. So I need to process 35 heavy oil a second into lubricant. So that is going to be, at 1 second, it takes 10 and converts it. That means I need 3.5 machines, which we can't do half a machine, so we do 4 machines. 4 chemical plants cracking heavy oil into lubricant. And I'm actually going to turn this facing downwards. I want to leave myself a little bit of room because I still need to deal with the fact that if my lubricant backs up, let's put a regular pipe here so I can grab off of it to go in other directions. I'm going to leave a gap of 3, and this is where the first machine will start. First chemical plant that is going to make our lubricant. We need 4 of them, and looks like I can probably squeeze them all together. There's no need to separate them. This is only making fluids. There are no physical inputs or outputs. And then how many tanks of lubricant should we have? That is a good question. Could go with 2. Really, I could probably just do 1, to be honest with you, because I want to be using the lubricant as quickly as I'm making it, but just to keep things looking nearly the same, not identical, but to keep things looking in a what would you call that? Similar manner? I don't know exactly how to express what I'm thinking right now, which happens very often when I'm recording. But I want it to have the same style. There we go. Same style. So I've got 4 tanks for the light oil. We'll do 4 tanks for the lubricant. Again, I only have the one here, and that is on purpose. And that is because I'm going to use logic here to determine whether or not I should be pumping into our cracking setup, which we're going to put right here. And this, I'm going to use the green line from this tank to the power back to the pump. I'm going to say if heavy oil is greater than or equal to 10,000, right? Because this will hold 25,000. So you're talking about 40%. When this tank gets at or above 40% filled, then this pump will start sending the heavy oil out and we will crack it down. But until then, every bit of heavy oil will sit in this tank and in this line, which feeds into our lubricant production. Which means until this backs up, and this line backs up, and this backs up, everything becomes lubricant, which is exactly what I want. I want to have as many of the robot frames as I can get, and that's going to require a lot of lubricant. Plus, electric engines are certainly going to be used in other recipes. I can't remember exactly which ones right now, but I know that it is used, so let's step down the next step of the process, and that is going to be cracking our heavy oil into light oil. So if you look at this recipe, heavy oil cracking to light oil, it takes 40 heavy oil and 2 seconds to craft, which means it's using 20 heavy oil a second. And we already know that our setup will be producing 35, which means 2 machines cracking the oil will work just fine. And the heavy oil into light oil. I'm going to have to leave a little bit of space here, because this recipe requires water in one input and light oil in the other. Now we already know we have water right here that we can just bring over, which is perfect. So we will swap that out and put it underground. That's very easy. Takes care of our water needs. Up next is the heavy oil. We can just drop down. And this does not need to go anywhere else. We're not going to use heavy oil in any other recipes, so it will sit like this. Now, this is where we need to make sure that we are not having backflow here as well. I need this pipeline to remain empty. And that's very wasteful. I'll just do the regular pipes. Like so. There we go. And this pump should simply run all the time as well. So that's better placement. It's looking a little bit weird, almost like a star. It's just missing one side here with our power poles. Okay. That gets the heavy oil cracked into light oil once our lubricant backs up, if our lubricant ever backs up. Now, we need to look at light oil. Light oil, we're going to get 45 in 5 seconds. That comes out to be 9 a second per machine. So this is going to get a little bit weird because of the numbers that I have. Right? Am I doing my math right? Hold on, let me look at this again. 45 divided by 5 is certainly 9, right? So it's 9 a second, and there are 7 of these, which comes out to be 63 a second, which is a very strange number, but that's because of me using 7 oil refineries. And this might all change, but let's take a look here. So that light oil, it's going to use 5 a second in order to make 1 solid fuel. 5 a second, and I'll need to do, what is that, 65? So that's 13. I'll need 13 machines running. All right. Let's have a look at where the inputs, outputs, and all are. Oh, well, it's just light oil being turned directly into this. Nothing special there. All right, so here's where we need to decide. Is it a priority that we get the solid fuel, or is it a priority that we crack the light oil into petroleum when we don't have enough? We're backed up right now, but that will not be the case when everything is up and running. So I think the next question would be, we get 55 petroleum gas. So at that point, I don't think it's a priority to get the petroleum gas. I actually think the priority would be to get our solid fuel out of it, because we're going to need to make rocket fuel. Oh, I forgot completely that rocket fuel also requires light oil. So we certainly are going to want to prioritize using the light oil for that over turning it into petroleum gas, unless our rocket fuel and light oil back up. And then I don't want that to shut the system down, so then I will want to crack it down into petroleum gas. But that will be a secondary priority. The priority is going to be the solid fuel into the light oil. Now, this ratio is a little bit weird, right? 10 solid fuel made out of this is going to be 100 light oil, and then you use just an additional 10 on top of that 100 to turn it into rocket fuel, which I am going to need. So that means, oh, that's a 30-second craft time. That's incredibly slow. Okay. Then I think instead of, we said it was going to be, what, 13 machines in order to make all of the solid fuel. I guess we could do that and make it where solid fuel is the priority until we have enough solid fuel. And I am going to want to pressurize this line, but I think I'm going to do it right at the point in which it's used, which I should just put in line with things right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Hold on. That makes 13. What a beautiful little line of machines. All of you are going to make solid fuel for me. And let's see, there's no need for power on this side, but I will need inserters. How long does it take? It takes 2 seconds. That's not a fast craft, so we can do it with regular inserters. Just throw that one in there. And then, like I said before, I do want to have this pressurized with light oil. I don't want to leave myself options to branch off of here. All right, so this is the input side. It's pressurized at the input side for these tanks, and then we want to pressurize the feed line over here. I do need to get power to this. Best way, I think, is probably just to do that. And now we have production going on here. So this is going to produce, what, half of 1 a second? So this is 1 a second, 2 a second, 3 a second, 4 a second, 5 a second, 6 a second, 6.5 a second. Now, obviously, I don't have enough light oil. It's only running these two at the moment because our petroleum's backed up. But that's going to produce 6.5 per second, 6.5 solid fuel. That is way more than this is going to be able to take, because it takes 10 in a 30-second period, right? So that is, what, a third of one a second? Plus the extra light oil. So I'm probably going to need quite a few of these rocket fuel assemblies. Oh, and this is actually made in assembly machines, not in the chemical... What is this called? A chemical plant. So, how's the best way to do this? It might be to run the feed line this way and then turn it. Wait, so if I say I want rocket fuel here, we're going to have to deal with the fluid input here as well, which I can do by simply taking it away a little bit, leaving myself a little bit of space. And the reason I'm saying that is I do have to get the output from these machines out, and again we can just use low, slow inserters for that. Same thing with putting it in. And so now I'm really glad that I left room to bring down the light oil here. Yeah, we're also going to want to pressurize this. Make sure that there's not backflow. And just run a line down through there. Now, I don't have enough space over here for these. And I'm not going to be able to run both of these setups wide open with the amount of light oil that we make here. The only catch is going to be if I do back up on lubricant, then I will have the extra, what is it going to be? Let's see. It was, what, 35 heavy oil per second. This is going to use 20 per second, and this one's going to use 15 per second and turn around. So it's going to make this at full speed, which will produce 15 light oil a second, and this one at not full speed, but not half speed. So it's, we're going to make 20-ish light oil plus the 30, going to 50-ish light oil in 2 seconds. So you can get 25 light oil a second out of that if it ever backs up and begins to crack the heavy oil down. Okay, so that will help supplement this when that ever happens. If that ever happens. Oh, we ran out of assembly machines. And lighting. Lighting is important. But let's run back to the mall. Grab some assembly machines. Running low on chemical plants. Can I pocket craft some of these? I don't have these being made anywhere. What am I lacking? Steel. Hey. Our steel buffer sits right here. There we go. I'll have some of those crafting while I run and grab assembly machines, which are right here. Alright, I should probably grab some more regular inserters. I think everything else is probably good. How am I doing on tanks? And can I make more? I can make a few. I'll need iron plates. I said inserters. And then we're going to need iron plates in order to handcraft some tanks. So let's run right down here to our iron plate buffer. I feel like this episode is probably one of the more technical episodes that I've had yet. All this fancy advanced oil cracking. And I probably could have figured out exactly how many refineries makes good round even numbers for this to get nice perfect ratios. But I didn't feel like doing that. I think part of the fun of playing this game is doing something different. I don't want to be cookie cutter and just Google the most optimal setup for this, that, and the other. I like to figure things out on my own. For the most part, I do some Googling and some searching. And that's not true. I use DuckDuckGo. Privacy matters. That's not a plug. I'm not sponsored by them. um, but yeah, I do some searches and try and look at how people do things, but not to copy exactly what they do. I do that to pick up what's a lot of people call best practices. And that is identifying things that someone does better than you and altering your style in order to incorporate the best practices of those that you found. I've worked in many factories in the past in many different levels, and that is a very common practice to use best practices and have people visit from different factories, even in like the same country. I live in the United States, and we've had people from other factories in the United States come to our factories before and just, point out things that they see. Fresh set of eyes helps. Going on a rant here though, but that gets this set up. How many did we need of these, honestly? 30 seconds craft time is excessive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe we do 10. 9 and 10. Right. That's the output line, and that is the input line. And let's get this going. Now I will have to start consuming the petroleum again before I can really eyeball this and see if I like how it's moving or not, but this gets us rocket fuel coming out. I don't have a use for the rocket fuel yet, so I'm probably let's buffer it. And it only stacks to 10 or something, I think, like that. And I can't remember exactly. So we'll just buffer a full chest. I will not restrict it. It's not a super high stack. So now we need to address if our light oil is completely processed down here and backs up, we need to break that light oil down into petroleum. And this petroleum needs to move. Right, we're running out of room over here. We may actually even move where the plastic is quite a good bit over here, actually. Our water line is fine where it's at. So I am going to temporarily break this. And let's look at cracking our light oil into petroleum gas. It will take 15 light oil a second. And we already know that we're going to be getting 63 here with the potential of at least 25-ish more. We'll just say that's 27 for round numbers, which makes the total of 90 potential light oil per second coming in if everything's backed up. So I need to be able to take that 90 light oil a second and crack that down. At 15 a second, that makes for super easy math, right? So if we come right over here, we know, right, that this one, 15, 30, we're already a third of the way there. Where are my chemical plants? Here we go. I think, yeah, I have to leave that space. So 15, 30, 45, 60, then you're talking about 75, and then 90. Right? Am I good at math? Did I do that right? That gives us petroleum gas out. Okay, let's plug these in. That's interesting. So it looks like the water is always on the right-hand side when the machine's facing up for cracking. But over here, when the refinery is facing up, the water is on the left-hand side for advanced oil processing. I was wondering if there's a pattern to any of this when they use the water and then the other one. Looks like for cracking for sure. There's a definite side, but it's opposite of the side that the refinery uses. How interesting. Just some of the things that my brain notices when I'm doing stuff. And I always tack the extra pipe, underground pipe on like that so that I can blueprint items like this, and it is easily tileable. Whoop. Too far away. There we go. Let's go ahead. Oh, I don't have squeak through. So this is where we're going to move the petroleum gas to. There's a tank, and I actually need to craft one more. And I think like this. That looks just like what's down here. So this will be the input, which means that we actually need to put a pump here. And that is where, no, I don't need you to line up with that. This is going to be water, which I will sneak in somehow. What I need is this, so that it will constantly fill that up. Same thing over here. We are going to put one on this end, so we're pressurizing the inputs. That looks really messy, and I don't like that. Is there a way to do this with medium power poles? Yes. Now, as far as the output for this goes, we need to leave ourselves a couple of options, and we also need to link up here. And we need to turn the water. Where is the water coming up? Okay. That's going to backflow from over there. But that's okay. We can drain. I don't want to waste this petroleum gas, so we're going to drain it into the system like so. And that's actually going to kick everything on, which is just fine. We'll get to see how things are working in action. What I want to do is get this really low, and in fact, actually, let's stop letting it feed back into it, because I want to get rid of this tank here. So I want it to fully drain. This is pretty much empty. And like I was saying before, I feel like I should move this setup. It just doesn't feel very good where it's at. Now we have think the best way to do this would be something along the lines of this. How close can we get? Right there. Okay, now we're talking. So we have a decent looking setup over here to process everything. And it's dark down here. Let's light it up. I don't have any power around these. We're going to put a power pole on either end. And that won't connect. What a shame. Okay, fine. I'll put one there and there. I don't like that. That's out of alignment with with that pole. And the whole reason we did that was just to get a little lighting down here. Wait a minute here. What is this? Okay. I missed placing a corner piece. Alright. That is important because that gets our rocket fuel production going. Did I miss anything else? This is empty on purpose because of our logic over here. This is making lubricant very slowly, but it's getting there. It's going to fill up over time. We did not power this yet, which is okay because we should not need any cracking just yet. Okay. Now, another thing is we don't have the water being fed into here yet. We could bring the water in from the top side because there's water right here. It might look a bit messy though. A better idea, in my opinion, would be to run it right down here. How does that tie into the water? Like so. And then the water needs to continue. And see, this is again where this is not the best place for this. So let's go ahead and move it. It was just fine when we first built it here, but it is no longer acceptable placement. Now we need to run our pipe up here, and that should get water filled in here again. We have petroleum gas in here, which is good. Now let's look at how we're going to make the plastic. I want to leave room. In fact, I'm going to move this belt of coal up, and we're also going to move our production of plastic a little bit higher up. And while we're at it, we will expand it. So what I'm actually going to do is put two of them right next to one another. Like so. And now we're getting to what might potentially be excessive amounts for what I can produce right now. And we're going to need to put coal in on this side and extract the plastic out on the other. And we're going to need to look at a good way to get it on both sides of the belt. So before I was doing something like this, and I had that space in between so it was even. I can be very excessive with the splitter usage and just do this. And It looks very odd, but that should function neatly and put everything on the correct side of the belt. On each side, both sides. That's what I'm trying to say here. And that is powered. Now what we need is petroleum from the output side to come up and over to here. We are going to use a pump, like we've been doing, to pressurize the fluid at the site where it is consumed. And there we go, and that should fill this all the way to 100. Perfect. Now the only thing I need to do is get our coal over to here. That is not the correct orientation that I wanted. Super simple and easy. I'm going to grab this coal up and then just throw it into those machines to get them running. This gives me room that if I want to expand oil production here, or oil refining, I can just copy and paste another one of these down, link up, and then expand over here. The only thing I didn't think about is I didn't leave myself much room to expand cracking here. I did leave room here. Maybe I should move this right down here. That way I can easily expand it. You know what, we'll worry about that if I do end up finding the need to expand it. Then we'll worry about that. At this moment, we're going to leave it and move along. So I want to do another just double check, making sure that my logic here is not flawed in how I'm wanting to do this. And that I don't want things to back up and shut the system down. So, wait a minute. Cracking over here. I did not finish that. Okay, so that is one thing that I can fix right now. And I can do that by swapping this out for a regular pipe, putting one in there. We can drop a pump in right here. That'll be best done with just regular pipes. I don't need any undergrounds right there. But that will get this going. What we need to do is tell this when it needs to do so using a little bit of logic. And my goodness, just please don't look at the the power lines over here at all. It's bad. Okay, so when light oil is above or equal to 10,000, again, that's 40% of what this tank can hold. And if this tank is at 40%, it should roughly be the same across all of them. So if we get to the 40% mark, then we say, all right, let's crack it down. But until then, it will not be cracking it. It will be making fuel for us. And let's take a look. Did I remember correctly? Yes, these only stack to 10. So we will buffer an entire chest full. And this is going to be a slow process. Because, again, if I wanted, 1 per second, I would need 30 machines, not 10. Which is excessive. I don't need that right now. We're looking good here, though. I do believe everything should function as intended. The only other thing would be, do I make sulfuric acid here, or do I make sulfuric acid where I'm going to use it, which is going to be batteries and circuits? I have no plates right here. I don't have iron plates and or copper plates coming here. And I would want to grab them after a balancer somewhere, and I don't think it would look good to bring them down here. So this might be where I should run fluids somewhere else. I don't like where they're running right now. I think a better idea would be to come out here and just run a fluid bus. I'm certainly convincing myself of that right now looking at this mess. I have some landfill to put here. I have grenades to clear these trees. And then we can run our fluids to the left-hand side over here. So let's take care of that. I'll take the trees out first and then go grab the landfill. Yeah, with the research that I have for explosion damage, I can clear trees with a single grenade now. An awful lot of trees with that too. And rocks for that matter, if there's anything in the way. Actually, wow, that takes a lot of grenades to take a rock out. How interesting. I guess that makes sense. I mean, I've never used a grenade in real life, but I feel like it would do, you know, more damage to a tree than it would to a rock. So I'm following that. I'm tracking on their logic there. All this plastic in my inventory. Let's go dump that. Grab the landfill. I'm definitely going to need more undergrounds, so we will grab undergrounds while we're on the topic of filling up our inventory with goodies. I just grabbed red circuits. I was trying to put plastic away, not grab more things. Underground pipes right over here. Oh, we're just going to take them all, actually. I'm about to run how many different fluids up through there? Water, petroleum gas, and lubricant for sure. We're probably going to make sulfuric acid locally, like I said. Whoop, ran off the path. Let's grab our landfill, which is right over here. That is certainly more than enough. 400 landfill. And then we can start production of our electric engines, and we will be one step closer to robots. Hold up, where am I going? Right down here. I had to think for a moment. I'm getting so excited and distracted with the idea of getting robots. Alright. That leaves me with plenty of room. Might actually just clean this edge up a little bit. And then we can run our fluids over here. Is that out of the way? Actually, I might just fill this whole area in. That'll leave me with room to expand, but what I'm gonna do is, see, this is the output side for our lubricant. If I look at the map, I might want to expand these machines further. Like I said, I could be adding in more cracking and such. So I think actually what I'm gonna do is grab more landfill, because 34 is not enough for what my brain is now thinking. I'm gonna shift these fluids way off to the left, so I don't have to just pick them up again later if I end up expanding. Also, I didn't put any lights over here. Keep things well lit. After I complete this series here and launch a rocket, I will be playing another modded series. I've been looking at the changes to space exploration and considering that. I don't know. I mean, that is the largest series, I guess you could say, I've done for mods. It's the one that I know the most, but they've changed a whole lot of things. Core mining, all kinds of stuff has changed, so it might even be totally new. I just don't know what other mods I will add into that mix. Mod pack, I should say. I'll be making my own mod pack, per se. But that is in the future. Right now, let's go probably right to here, to this edge somewhere. So where does that fall out? The lubricant, I think, is going to be the furthest one out, so that falls right here. So this will be where the lubricant runs. And of course there's rocks in the way. There may even be more trees in the way since I came this far over to the left. But I'm not going to have the pipes running right up against each other. It does look very neat when you do that, but it also makes it hard to branch sections off. Hello, trees. Grenades. Trees, best friends. I don't want to clear too many trees. The trees do actually reduce the pollution over time until they die. And until the waters turn that glorious green glow. Okay, how is this going to work? The waters do actually turn green. I'm not just making a silly joke there in this game. Where can I find... Oh no, that's odd. They were certainly green before. Maybe it's because it took me so long. Yeah, wow. Because the factory has been sitting idle for the most part, our pollution is retracting greatly, which is good, I guess. It's definitely going to blow right back up when we get things going. But until then, I'll take the fact that it's, you know, starting to look nicer. The water was turning green. All the trees are dying. See? Look at them. Poor dead trees. Alright, I'm all the way up to here with the lubricant, and I might actually make electric engines just right beside the engine assembly itself. And if I do that, how will I get my fluid through? Probably right here and come across. Or, no, I want to keep some consistency here. I'm doing all my science on the left-hand side, except for the mall and then green circuits. But what I'm going to do is components on the right-hand side. So I will pass through the fluids. Now over here, the water and petroleum gas are, at this point, I could probably just turn around and put it right out here, which is where the fluids are going to come in. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And then just underground through here and change the direction of that belt. But let's run those pipes. I can do that by leaving a one gap space and running down here. And for this, it doesn't really matter what I make this. As in, hold on. I do want to keep it in line here. As in, I can have this one as water or this one as petroleum gas. It doesn't matter because I haven't completed the setup at the end. We'll just figure out whichever one is easiest to link up. And hold on here. Oh, I don't have any radars over here, which makes looking at this in the map view a little bit challenging. Let's drop one right there. But what I was going to say is I have water here, and it's probably a good idea to simply bring the water out and then up. And then petroleum gas, the output is here. So it's probably best to do that on the top side. let's come down here and make that imagining a reality. No, you know what? I've already got the water line running up through here, so water and petroleum will both come out in this direction. And continue up to where they need to go. So let's go ahead and remove this mess. That could have actually stayed. We can use this as the line that the water comes over on. I will have to do a little bit more land filling right here. I'll just finish this little corner in there. And looks like water is probably going to end up being the line that runs here. Yep, so that'll be water. The other one will be petroleum gas, which is not going to run way down here. Let's bring it over. I do want to leave a little bit of room to run right through here, so maybe something like this. Perfect. And just get those out of the way. I'll go back through and clean all of the undergrounds that are currently run up. That's going to free up some space inside the bus in the main base, which will certainly make me happy because there were a few instances where I did not like how things landed. And that works out great. Lines right up with this pipe. So I need to run back this way and get my water up here. And if I need to add an additional fluid to this line, I certainly can. Just do a little bit more land filling there, move to the right, and add an additional line. And it's not a big deal. Then we're stopping roughly in this area. What's going on down here? How did I end up doing this? There we go. Things are looking weird. Whoa! Don't throw grenades at your feet. That's dangerous. Public service announcement. Don't throw grenades at your feet, kids. Okay, so another beauty of doing it this way. And when I say doing it this way, is another beauty of moving this setup here is I was using two long-handed inserters to move this over. From the top side of the belt, I will be able to put both of the assembly machines neatly on either side of the belt, like this right here. 1 and 2. And they can both off-put like that. Now we just need to get water and petroleum gas into this line. And for the petroleum gas, we do need to remember that it needs to be pressurized at the point of usage. Like so. For the water, it's not necessary to pressurize at the point of usage because it is pressurized by the offshore pump. So this one needs to be water. And I might end up using water elsewhere, so we will go ahead and continue it down the line like so. The petroleum gas I don't believe I'll be using anywhere else, but let's run the line over here. Looks nice, neat. Undergrounds, actually, I feel like that's a bit ugly. So how far can I go? It's going to be shifted over by 1. And then that's close enough. Good. Power every bit of that with a single power pole. No, I can't. Oh, it's just outside. Oh, well. We will put down 2 power poles then. Okay. Get rid of that sulfur. That's great. The reason I did it like this with the undergrounds here is that I do need sulfur to make sulfuric acid, which I might be making right around this point and then just piping over, because the sulfuric acid takes sulfur, water, and then just some iron plate, which I have iron plates right here, so I could just divert that line down, or I could make it kind of in this gap or right over here. These fluids do need to be cleaned up before I worry about all of that. Actually, I can do this in between episodes. This is probably going to be something boring. Y'all don't want to watch me run around cleaning pipes up. So, what's the next thing? Next thing is going to be electric engines. Very, very easy to do. Engine units, lubricant, green circuits. Let's make that a reality right here. And also, I don't want to confuse myself, so I will pick these up right in this area, but not the whole line. Alright. Everything for this production line is already being made somewhere else. You know, you got engine units, you got green circuits, and lubricant. So I can just put this down. We can put green circuits on one side of a belt, engines on another. I want to leave probably 4 spaces and then do the input belt. So it'll look like this. And where's the output going to go? I can probably long-handed insert to the other side for the output. Is that ideal? That would mean that if I wanted to expand production, I could not mirror to the bottom side. I could mirror and have just 2 separate output belts, but I don't think that's ideal. Yeah, that's going to alter our plans here for this. Let's actually make the output belt on the inside. Like so. And then if I wanted to mirror onto the other side, I could, outside of how the fluid comes in. So, if I put the fluid on the same side as the output belt, I'm going to need to do some fancy work. No, that's actually doesn't make any sense. It makes more sense to run the fluid like so. Output here. No, I don't need fast inserters. Regular inserters work just fine for input and for output. This is a 10-second craft. Oh, you know what I didn't even think about is the amount of lubricant this is going to use. Am I even making enough lubricant to make these at an excessive speed? It takes 15 lubricant in 10 seconds. Every second is using 1.5 lubricant. Okay. We were producing 35 lubricant a second. So we need to take that 35 lubricant a second divided by 1.5. You get 23.3. 23 1/3 machines can be run. That is an excessive amount. So the next question is, Oh, good heavens, no. It takes 20 seconds to make one flying robot frame, and that uh, only takes one electric engine in that 20-second period. So if you wanted one robot frame per second, which is actually really, really fast, but I'm going to need that anyways because I need yellow science. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's maximize for what we can. We're going to do 24 of these machines, which is quite a few a second, actually. So here's where we don't necessarily have to use all of the available lubricant. We can let it slowly build up and back up, because 24 machines will give us 2.4 electric engines a second. And I'm actually not even making 2.4 engines a second, which means that's not a possibility. I'm making 2 engines a second, because each one of these makes 1 engine a second. I could mirror that, but we use engines for more than just this recipe. So what I'm thinking here is that I just do 10. Keep it simple. That's not going to utilize all of our lubricant, and that is okay. The lubricant will just slowly build up in the tanks until it is full, and then it'll start cracking into extra light oil. 2, 4, 6, 8. I need 2 more machines. And this will get us going automatically, because you cannot pocket craft engines of any kind. It is a complex recipe that has to be made in a machine. If I do decide that I want to crank this up and make more, I can simply expand this out and or mirror the setup to the other side, so I'm using both sides of the output belt. Either one of those could be valid options, and we will look at that in the future if that is a necessity. At this point, I don't even know that that will end up being a necessity. Okay, everything's powered. Let's get our lubricant in here. That's also going to be an interesting little feat to get our lubricant in. How are we going to do that? Yeah, pretty sure sneaking right through this little point is how I'm going to want to do it, right here. And try and match our underground belts as best as possible, if we can reach. Have to do some interesting things here if I wanted to do that. What I could also do is this, and then here. And it's sort of slinking around through here. Sort of. How is this going to work out in relation to our lines? Okay, so this is super easy. Just throw an extra junction in like so. Now we have lubricant flowing over here. We need to get engines and green circuits onto a belt and being fed in. We have engines right here. So that one is super easy. Now we just need to get green circuits right here. I really want to get the modular power armor so the belts will stop pushing me around. It is quite aggravating. Probably the best way to do this would be to underground the reds here instead. Red circuits. Alright, and that will be green circuits. Engines are already loaded and the lubricant is here and ready to go. That will get our electric engines out and on the line. This is going to probably run a couple of spots over to the side of our normal engine line. So give it a gap of 2. And that's where the electric engines will flow. Now we need to look at batteries. Batteries are going to be used in multiple recipes. They do require sulfuric acid, iron, copper, and sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid also requires iron, some water, and then the sulfur. The sulfur is just water and petroleum. So I need to get petroleum gas, water, iron, and copper all into the same area, which is probably going to be right over here. We're going to leave space so that if I wanted to copy this over, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces from the top of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the 8th one would be where the lubricant would come in. So if I do decide to mirror this on the top side, I need that much space. We're going to then leave 1, 2, 3, 4, and that'll be a feed line for the next row. And that just is future proofing because I will most likely want to have more electric engines down the line. And that means I can just slap them on there. I could also just expand this out this way, but that will continue to utilize only one side of the belt. Which honestly, at the speed that we're going, that's not an issue either. So batteries. We need to go all the way back to the beginning, and that's going to be to make sulfur, which is going to be made in chemical plants. You will make sulfur. That sulfur will then go down into another chemical plant, which will take the sulfur, some water, and plates, and produce sulfuric acid. That sulfuric acid will then combine with more iron plates and copper plates in order to make batteries. How many batteries? Are we going to want one battery a second? If that is the case, that means I'm going to need only 5 sulfuric acid per second, which is not a whole lot. You get 50 in 1 second. So one machine making sulfuric acid. I need 5 sulfur a second to keep that going though, which is going to require 2.5 machines making the sulfur. Okay. So you need 2.5, which we know we can't do, so you need 3 machines making the sulfur. That sulfur, which is going to be at what? That's going to be 6 a second. That's more than enough. Let's go ahead and put this down here while we're working it out. 6 a second. This can handle 7.5 per second on that one side. We just need to get the fluids in. That will then go down here into one single lab making sulfuric acid, which I will put on this side because I'm already going to have water here. Right, so this is a super easy. That's not where that goes. Super easy going through here. That just needs to be water. We just need to bring petroleum gas in on this line. Holy cow, I've used so many underground pipes. I don't want to run to the mall just yet. Let's craft some more. That actually, you know what, hold on. Let's run to the mall. I have more machines to build. Pretty sure batteries are made in a chemical plant, right? Yeah, made in the chemical plant. And we're probably going to need quite a good number of them. Oh, man. Every time I forget you can't run between all those things in vanilla. Unmodded Factorio. It is still a glorious game, but there are some really good quality of life mods out there. And Squeak Through is, boy, that one right there, one of the best. I need some iron plate, and I don't feel like running to the buffer, so I'm just gonna snag it off the line. Okay. Where were we? You need 5 in a single second, which I think is going to be, what, 2 fast inserters should be good? Questioning that, potentially. And that will produce loads of sulfuric acid. I can just immediately put that into a tank with a single pipe right there. Or, even better, I can dump that straight into the tank. From that tank, I can extract. Let's take a look at this for the battery recipe. It's just the sulfuric acid. Where our copper and iron are going to need to come in here. And I'm going to need the iron here. I'm going to need 1 iron a second, which means I don't want to be using long-handed inserters. I do want to bring that line right down through here. We're starting to make this very tight and cozy. That will grab iron plate off of one side, and then the other side will be copper plates. I think I can put these all very close together. And then they're going to grab the iron and the copper and produce batteries. Now, it takes 4 seconds to craft. If I have 4 machines, that's 1 a second. Now, I can produce a whole heck of a lot more than that. I can actually, let's see, I could do up to 50 sulfuric acid a second, which would be 2.5 times what we have here. So 2.5 batteries a second. I don't know that we need to do that many, but we may go ahead and do, what, 2 a second? And I'm running out of fast inserters now. I'm starting to get into recipes that do actually require the fast inserters for inputs. Another thing to consider here is the amount of iron. I can move 7.5 a second down through here. This is going to use 1 iron a second. This is going to use 2 iron a second for a total there. And this is going to use 1 iron a second. So that is 3 iron a second. That's not a big deal. Iron plates. Iron plates are good. Copper plates should be more than good enough. Let's go grab our inserters. Keep running back and forth to the mall. I almost have robots, and then I will simply make them bring me everything. I will not have the requester chest yet. That's what this logistics system. The requester chest, the buffer chest, and the active provider chest are all locked behind the yellow utility science research packs. And I don't have those being produced yet. But what we're working on right now, the flying robot frames, to get to robots, will also be one of the ingredients in the yellow science packs. So that helps out tremendously in getting us there. I did grab fast inserters. Was there something else that I needed while I'm here? A quick cursory glance is not making anything stand out to me. So let's run back over here. This might be a bit of a longer episode. I mean, they're all long plays. So by nature, they're all longer episodes, but this one is probably going to be a little longer than the others just because there's so much to do when you get to these chemicals. Power. Let's run some power over here. Like so. If I do it like that, I can make sure that this line stays very full. It's not going to have to balance itself with the tank, which is exactly what I want. And then, like so. Actually, I didn't consider the outputs there. The batteries are going to output past the input belt. There we go. Let's go ahead and come up quite a few. And then batteries can be right here on this line. They're going to be used in quite a few things. All right, we need just some plates over here. Rather than adding in a whole nother balancer setup, I'm just going to augment this setup slightly. Where do I need to underground? Right there. Till right before the plastic. Oops, placed it in the plastic belt. Right across to here. And this is where it starts to get a little bit messy. We're becoming more and more spaghetti as we expand. That's all right. I'll take it. I think we might actually do roughly the same thing where I'm just going to plug a splitter in there. Run this across. That will not work. Actually, what I can do is this. And just wiggle around through there. Now, how am I going to get the fluids in here in a neat and orderly fashion? I can fit them through right along here. That's a bit far away from where I would like them to come through. I really should have planned for this in advance and left myself a decent amount of space for the fluid bus to run through here, like I had this little janky line set up. But let's go ahead and squeeze through. All I'm going to do is remove these. It's only a handful of solar panels, doesn't do that much. Actually, what I might do is simply replace them right over here. And I just want to line these up so they at least look halfway decent. There you go. They're moved. That gives me space to run both of the fluids right through here. I do want to backtrack to where it gets messy, right? So right here, I am going to turn the fluids and go up this way. It's much neater around here to come across. That's why I chose to come through this spot with the what is this, lubricant? I did that on purpose. That was no accident. I'd noticed that there was plenty of space there. So these need to be water and petroleum gas. It doesn't matter which one is which. So let's head out this way and see. Does wait, okay, yeah, you got to be careful with these pipes sometimes when placing them. Sometimes if something's in the way, it's not as smart as the power pole placement, and sometimes it does not correctly set it up. Now here, this one is going to be the water. See if I line this up correctly, or if I'm off by one. Off by one. That's okay. Nope, can't do that. Because then that would have hooked up. Okay. I'm just going to do the same setup as the lubricant here. Until I get to this point, I need to turn and bring the fluids up. And now's a good time to look at how I actually need this to fall out. This one is the petroleum gas. I don't think it'll be long enough to reach. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. I can just do that. And now water, though, should be good. Yep, okay. And let's hold off on doing it right here just yet. I need to get the water run across and see. It might be off. It will be offset compared to the petroleum gas. So I need to backtrack to here so that I don't get conflicting fluid systems. Yeah, we're gonna have to go to here and then up. Starting to get very messy. And we're just gonna do it like that. Simple, easy, but effective. So now, when those get fully outputting, that should be 6 per second. So it's not going to be a full side of the belt, as that would be 7.5, but it should be enough to keep this machine running the entire time, and it is. Which means we're producing 50 sulfuric acid a second. And that is producing 2 batteries a second over here. Which is good, because if I decide to do 1 robot frame a second, I will need 2 batteries a second. So hey, look at that. We planned ahead. That was totally intentional. That's exactly why we set this up. And boy, does it look nice. But let's see, that gives us all the ingredients we need to make flying robot frames. This right here, this is starting to get exciting. The only thing about the robots is that, no, it takes red circuits. I was going to say blues, and I thought, I'll have to set up a blue circuit. But we are 1 assembly line away from robots. Let's make that happen right this moment. And this is not a super complex assembly line. batteries and electric motors are right beside one another. We are just going to branch those off right here for the one input. And right here for the other one. Gives us batteries and electric motors. The other two inputs are steel and green circuits. I might need more landfill if I want to build just, out to the right here. It's not a might. I will need more landfill because I'm going to want, what is that, 20 assemblers if I want one a second? Yeah, okay, so let's come back to roughly here. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll start with 10 and then we can double it at a later date. Now, I think what I'm going to do is bring the steel and green circuits across right through here somewhere. Can I can indeed fit them both right in this area. So let's bring them across. I don't actually need these to be undergrounds right here anymore because I'll leave it just in case I find out I need those resources. We're going to do steel along this line. I made that decision deliberately, not just at random. Oops. Oh, man. Misplacing things. Hold on here. There we go. And that is because I already had a splitter right there. And I wanted that one to be right next to the other one. I can potentially look at a better way to balance that later if they're nearby. The green circuits need to come across right here. I'm going to do the same thing again where I just underground the red belt at this point. And now we're looking at steel and green circuits. I did not miss any belts anywhere, which is great to see. These two are going to combine and form the last resources that were necessary to complete this production line. This is a 20-second craft, so we can use regular inserters, long-handed inserters. The throughput's not going to be an issue. Oh, just outside of range. Same thing. I guess the inputs are the same as the outputs. Very slow. Alright, I am going to want to buffer this right here. Or I could just set up the crafting right here. Let's see, which one uses greens? Construction robots. It's just green circuits and the flying frames. How long's the craft? It's a half a second craft. Ooh. And then I could also just run red circuits right over here. We're gonna straight up automate the robots right here, right now. I'm getting my robots. I've had enough waiting. And then any additional robots, robot frames that make it past making my construction and logistic bots can go on down the line. Logistic robots, I'm not even gonna I'm not even going to restrict this chest to begin with. Construction robots, I'm going to say 4 stacks, just to begin with. Now, it's as simple as power everything and watch the magic happen. I do need to run red circuits over here. And that's not going to be that big of a challenge. I just need to make sure that I continue the important lines up here so I know what to underground through. And that is gonna just run right along here. There is a sea of underground belt setups right over here. Hey! Alright. I'm starting to get excited now. I don't know if y'all can tell. But we're going to slide that one down one, move this one over. And all of a sudden, reds are flowing over. Wait, I'm missing a belt. And it goes. 20 seconds. Oh, our first set are coming out. Here we go. Yeah. All right. This is good. This is exciting. I will need to set up a production line for blue circuits, and then I can get power armor. The blue circuits will allow me to make batteries. Oh wait, low density structure. No. Okay, you don't need that for their. You need it for the Mark II batteries, not for the Mark I's. And then. Wait a minute, have I not researched the portable fusion? No, okay, so that requires yellows. Gotcha. Okay, so using robots before you have a portable fusion reactor is not easy to do. It's not easy to power them. You could use the robots, but then charging them back is not such a simple task. So, with that topic in mind, I am absolutely going to need to expand this or just stop making robots until I get some yellow science, which is blues and low density structures as well. But I've been really busy, really pushing. I'm so close. I have the robots, I just don't really have a way. I don't have a personal roboport and a way to power them, reliably. We're so close. That is going to be it for this episode, though. If you enjoyed it, I am glad you did, and thanks for watching. Hopefully you'll get to enjoy many more after this one, and like I said before in the episode, I hope you're enjoying the pace. I'm trying to, make progress, but I'm not trying to speedrun this either. I am trying to enjoy what I'm doing, do things a little differently, not just grab blueprints off of the internet and stamp down whatever anyone else has come up with. And, I really like to theory craft my own stuff, and I'm having fun. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it, and I will see you all next time.